welcome back to a new episode of Teacher Talks to Go. I'm here with Greg and we're excited to talk with you today. And we have some exciting news to share that I'm sure they've probably already heard, but...
If you're a Harnett County Schools employee.
Yes.
And if you're not a Harnett County Schools employee, we can help you with that.
That's right. There's an even better reason to come now.
That's right, because we're recruitment and retention coordinators, so we're always looking to recruit. And the good news will help us to retain. We hope our supplement, our local supplement is increasing greatly.
Yes,
right?
We're very excited about that. And very thankful. It is the month of November, and we are so thankful to our county commissioners and to our school board and our superintendent. And,
absolutely.
For working really, really hard to increase our supplement, because they believe that we are the best district, and they believe that our teachers deserve more, and so we appreciate it. So
they recognize that it's valuable work.
Yes.
And so I always tell teachers when I'm working with them that the board is very supportive of what they do. It's just been a matter of accessing the funds. That's right?
And the county commissioners came through for us. So if you haven't heard, it's going to be 12%. Mm-hmm. And those supplement schedules have been posted to our website. And so we'll make for sure to link those in the show notes just in case you don't know how to navigate to that. But we're very excited about it. So we just wanted to shout it out today.
Yes, and if you left us for a higher supplement, you can come back now.
That's right. We will take you. Yes, we'd love to have you.
We'll try to find a place for you to be. But anyway, so this month we are going to talk more about management. I think this is a good time of the year to talk about Really, we need to talk about management year-round. But tell them what the topic is for today.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about when to reteach a routine. So, we shout to the mountaintops about how important it is to have routines and procedures in place in your classroom. And it's very heavy in the beginning, we always said the first 20 days of school, if you don't do anything else, teach those routines and procedures. But about this time, sometimes we need to revisit those things. And like Greg alluded to, it could happen that you need to revisit it throughout the year. So today we are talking about an article that Greg and I both liked called When to Reteach a Routine, and it's from the Smart Classroom Management website. And so we just wanted to touch on a few points that they made.
Yeah, and then the first sentence in the article, I want to point to something because this is so important. It says that when your students are performing a routine, you must observe them closely. And I don't know about you, Jessica, but I go into classrooms all the time and the teachers are not observing them closely.
And I don't think it's because lack of attention, really. I think they are so focused on the instruction and the curriculum that they're teaching and what they're going to be doing throughout the lesson that sometimes it's hard to kind of sit back and really see what's going on.
Yes. And so, for example, if you've given them a specific way that you want them to arrange themselves in groups, and you tell them, okay, I'm giving you 1 minute or 2 minutes or however long to get into the groups, and then you go busy yourself on the computer, right?
Right.
And so, and maybe there's routines that they'll get down where you can really let your hair down and you don't need to observe as you go along. But I think in the early weeks of implementation, it's real important to watch. And it says here that the number one reason for that is that if the students know that you're watching, it's going to keep them on track. Right,
for sure. And if you don't keep them accountable, I saw that in part of the article, it talked about it's spreading. So if you don't come quick to action when you see things are a little off kilter, what's going to happen is that's going to spread throughout the classroom. When it maybe starts with 2 or 3 students, then it's going to get to 4 or 5, and then before you know it, the majority of the classroom is not following that routine. So
absolutely. And then the second reason why it's important to observe them closely with their routine is it's the only way to confirm expectations are being met. And then the third one is it allows you to enforce any misbehavior quickly and accurately. So if you're not looking, you're not going to know who to correct. especially if you hear something but you don't see it.
And I think there's two things to think about too, as far as reteaching a routine. It says here, as long as you taught the routine thoroughly the first time, you can normally, through close observation, like see, where you need to do like quick reminders. But that got me thinking, sometimes, especially during our first year, we might not realize how in depth you have to go with teaching a routine. So maybe in the beginning of the year, you just kind of told them what you expected, but you really didn't follow through with modeling and practicing and reinforcing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you even need to go back to teaching it more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And that also depends on the age of the student that you teach, but just something to think about.
Right. So let's say that you have taught them routines and they're supposed to be doing them. And how do I know when I should maybe go back to the square one and reteach it again, Jessica?
Okay, so the article says that when most of your students are off track. So if you just have 2 or 3, then that's something you can address individually. But when you see the majority of your class is off track with whatever routine it may be, then that's a sign that you need to reteach the routine.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that it says, like, when you notice that they're going off the rails, it's best to send them back to their seats or wherever they were before that routine started to repeat it. So, for example, I was in a classroom this morning and the students were at the carpet, and the majority of them were not doing what was expected. And the teacher was doing a fabulous job teaching the curriculum. She really was. But so many of the students were distracted because they were laying on their back, they were laying on their stomach, they were standing on their knees. So that was a signal to me, oh, this would be a routine that needs to be revisited. So instead of keeping on with that lesson, right, we're going to stop, we're going to all go back to our seats, and we're going to practice this again. I'm going to show you what I expect. Okay, I'm going to call this group 1. I want you to come show me what you're supposed to do on the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they come to the carpet and do what they're expected to do, then you reinforce that positively in some way. If they don't, then you don't have to yell, you don't have to be mean, but just firmly, nope, we're going to try this again.
Yeah, and I think like from middle school perspective, y'all know that I taught middle school for many years. There were many times when they were supposed to be working in cooperative learning groups and it just wasn't productive, and that I would say, okay, you don't have to rant or lose your cool,
right,
or anything like that, as I've done in my not so proud younger days. You can just very calmly say, all right, everybody, we're just going to head back to our seat. This isn't working well. We're going to try again later. And then maybe you can think about overnight, is it bad enough where I need to completely reboot how we got there, or is it something that we can just correct with a couple of reminders?
Yes, and I think it's worth saying, especially for new teachers, don't think of yourself as being like a mean teacher if you're doing this. Students really crave structure and boundaries, and so making sure those are in place can ensure that you are able to teach the curriculum and that they can pay attention to learn what they need to learn, because that's why we're there. So, and I loved this at the bottom because sometimes it's hard for us, like we want to blame the students, right? Which they are the ones not doing what they're supposed to. But when it is the majority of the class, you as a teacher really must take responsibility for it. And it says it's much like a college football coach taking responsibility for the team, right? So if the whole team is not doing well, what am I doing as a coach? What am I doing as a teacher that is either promoting or inhibiting them from doing what I need them to do? So
yeah, I do see great value in like owning your part in it, and saying, yesterday didn't go well and I'm partly to blame. I mean, that is, I think that's a great way to connect, and you're not throwing it all on the kids, and you're taking ownership of the fact that you're the leader, and so that's why we're going to revisit this. And I think always explaining the why too is real important, especially in middle school, maybe the upper elementary. I guess it's important for all grade levels. This has got to run better, you guys, because we're not being productive with our learning time. or whatever. Just reminding them, hey, I'm in charge of your education. I'm going to guard our time together. It's going to be top notch. We want things to run smooth in here, so we're going to do better.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring it back to the learning and wanting what's best for them, it's not because you're trying to be nitpicky, right? So.
And see, some teachers the routines just keep getting worse and worse and worse, and they go all year long and never think that they can reteach. Mm-hmm. Haven't you seen people like that? They just keep trying the same thing. They never relaunch it. You don't have to wait till after Christmas to reteach a routine either.
Oh, no, at any time. And if you are reminding them of what they need to be doing, and then they don't do it, and you keep teaching, you are reinforcing the behavior that you don't want to happen. So just holding them accountable.
Well, real quick, and this is not in our notes, let's give them some examples of some routines that might need to be retaught.
Okay.
So they might be sitting there going, I'm not sure what's a routine and what's not. So let's try to brainstorm some routines that we might reteach.
Okay, so I think for all grade levels, whether you teach kindergarten or 12th grade, entering the classroom.
Yeah.
What are they expected to do when they enter the classroom? Is there a certain place that they need to unpack something or get something out? Is there a bell ringer or morning work or what have you that they should be getting started with? So that's, I think, classroom entry is like number one, and if that doesn't go well, things tend to fall off the tracks. I think any kind of transitions, like lining up to leave the classroom, outside of at the bathrooms, group work, like you mentioned, the procedures for that. Even simple things like where the materials go, where they turn things in. Middle school and high school is so important that because you as a teacher, a middle school or high school teacher, have 100 kids to keep up with their work. So them being organized and how they turn it in is important.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything that I retaught more and relaunched more than lining up and walking to the cafeteria and back. It was that was if I could have just taught without having to dealt with that, I would have been a happy man. But like lining them up by row, however you're doing it. If lining them up inside the classroom's not working, you might want to try lining them up in the hall or whatever. It's okay to try different things until you land on the sweet spot.
Yes.
And I've had to try a whole lot of different things for distribution of materials, like where we're getting crazy and carried away because we're all going to get a glue stick or whatever, and you've tried having a glue stick girl or a glue stick pass them out or whatever. At one point, I even had the pencil pouches zip tied to the desk leg, with everything in it so they wouldn't have to get up. But it's just, you just keep going back until you find something that works.
The water bottles, that made me think of those water bottles falling off the desks.
Yeah.
We didn't have to deal with that as much when we were, but now those are a big thing.
So it can even be how they interact during discussions, or maybe they're calling out, they're not raising their hand. Some teachers never think to go back and, okay, let's talk about how we talk. Okay, we're going to raise our hand, we're going to do this, or whatever it may be, but it can be just about anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you, if there's a bad routine that's happening or your students aren't following the routine, it says that there proves that there's something your class isn't understanding. And so some possible reasons would include, we've already touched on this, you didn't teach the routine well enough or in enough detail the first time, so that could be a reason. Like Greg started out with, you haven't been observing closely, so maybe you've just been teaching away, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, they're not doing this.
And it's like while the cat's away, the mice are going to play. If you're not looking, they're going to do whatever they want to do. And they're very perceptive, and they'll say, oh, she don't ever pay attention when she does this, or he don't ever, because I remember we used to do that when I was a student.
My personal child is a middle schooler, and she comes home and tells me, like, oh, in this class, we can do this, and in this class, I'm not going to say the names. But
we had an English teacher in high school, and she used to chop bookmarks or things on the paper chopper, and every time she would get over there on that paper chopper, we would party. Because I would say, y'all, she's getting ready to chop. You know what I'm saying? And so we learned her routine.
Yes.
And so because we learned her routine, then as soon as she would get to chopping, because it was making so much noise, we could talk and be off task.
And if you're observing closely,
Right.
you would realize that,
Right.
maybe I don't need to chop during class.
I'll wait and chop during my planning period or after school. And I get it that you're trying to get things
Yes,
done and
yes.
multitask, and we understand. But anyway,
For
but I remember that vividly. We used to always talk when she was chopping.
Greg, you were always up to something.
Hey, yep. That's why I'm a good teacher.
Okay, so it says, so you must nip bad routines in the bud by reteaching, and so some things to do that include, step 1.
Okay. Modeling or mimicking in detail. One of our lead mentors said that she's for elementary kids about how they entered the room. She used to like grab one of their backpacks and pretend like she was one of the kids and be like, okay, here I am coming in.
Yes.
You know?
It's that I do, we do, you do.
Yeah.
You have to do it with the routines too. So you really have to sell it, right?
Yeah.
So you show them, then we're going to practice it together.
Mm-hmm.
Also modeling what not to do.
And which is something that I did not do when I was in the classroom. What do you think about that one?
I think it depends on what the routine is that you're teaching, but I do think it's good. It's explicit. I mean, it tells them, okay, this is what I want you to do. I better not see this, right?
One time I was doing this and my principal came down and thought I was like having a meltdown. Because I was showing the kids, I was like, this is what y'all are doing when you're coming in and this is not the way. And I went out and came in, came in, the principal's like, everything okay in here?
And it can be a way to be funny.
It can
as
be.
long as you can rein that in.
Absolutely.
Asking more of your students. So, one of the things it talks about is maybe your expectations aren't high enough. Maybe you thought they were going to come into the 6th grade because they've been in school for 6 years already. You think they should know how to come in and sit down. But I think it's important to say that it doesn't matter if they're in kindergarten again or high school. Every teacher's expectations are different, and like Greg said, they know what they can get away with. So you have to expect.
And they
lot.
will, wherever you set the bar, they can totally reach it. And so we just have a tendency to really have low bars for particular groups of students or things that that's the best they can do. Somebody tells you they're rowdy or whatever. No, we need to have a high bar for all students, and they can and will reach it.
And being explicit about what you want. So like an example of that would be if you're teaching them about the morning routine and you say, I want you to unpack. Well, that's not very explicit. You need to say, okay, when you come in, you're going to get your book bag. You're going to unpack your book bag here. You're going to take this folder out. It goes in this container. You're going to make for sure you have 2 sharpened pens. Like, you have to go through it all. You can't expect them to know what you mean by that. So just being very explicit.
I always tell my teachers when I'm training them, assume nothing. Don't the example I always use is don't assume that they're going to raise their hand before they talk or ask you a question. A lot of people do. Well, that's just common knowledge. No, because there are teachers that let them call out. And if they had a teacher that just let them call out all year last year, they're going to come into your room thinking they can call out whenever they want. So you have to be real clear about what your expectation is.
For sure. And I would just say too, as far as like positive reinforcement of things, I think sometimes it's a good idea also to kind of change up what those are. Like if you have the same kind of incentives the whole year, that can get boring. We always talk about the novelty of it, right? Like
the brain responds to novelty.
Yes, the brain responds to novelty. And so just having like a different little thing that they're working towards or a different system, maybe you use the jar for a couple of months with the, stars, and then maybe you switch it up to, I don't know, marbles, or we're working for elementary, you can make it seasonal with turkey feathers or whatever. Or you could change, like maybe you do dojo points the whole year, but your prizes change, right? Like this month it might be candy, next month it might be
time, some kind of time. You can, time to read or talk or whatever, like, just a few minutes.
Yeah,
not the whole class.
Maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, so that's a good idea.
Or time outside if you can get permission for that. You'd be surprised what kids will do just to go outside for a few minutes.
Yeah.
If you have permission. But one thing about this whole article as we're kind of wrapping things up at the end is like, I was reminded that there is a time period before the bulk of the class is not doing it. Going back to the routine, before it's like almost everybody has completely forgotten what I told them about this routine. In the early days of the routine unraveling is when I think that's the most important time to step in and act.
Yes.
So if you have just 2 or 3 that have gone rogue in the early days, you will not be able to address them if you're not watching. So going back to that, I'm having to inspect what I expect.
Yes.
As we said, that's a cliche, but you have to inspect what you expect. So if I'm watching them in that early week or 2, after I've said this is the routine, and JoJo over there or Lulu or whoever it is not doing it, I can pull them to the side, right? Yeah. And hopefully I can stop the complete meltdown of the routine.
Yes.
Right? But but you're going to have to be vigilant to do that. And then you're going to have to follow through. If you observe JoJo or Lulu.
I love his names today.
He's a JoJo or Lulu. If you observe them not doing the routine and you don't ask to see them and have some kind of follow-up conversation, then what's going to happen?
It's going to spread.
Not only are they going to continue it, but the other kids have observed them not doing the routine, and now there was no consequence.
And many times I feel like it's not just with one routine, right? If
Right.
it starts falling apart, many times it kind of goes into all the things. So you just want
Yes. And then the other thing, too, that I would like to say, and this was a problem in middle school, is there were some teachers that they would practice walking the halls all the time, and it would never get better. And they were just eating away at their instructional time. So I have to throw in that, I don't know if it's a disclaimer, caveat, just know that you should relaunch your routines. Yes, we should practice the routines. But if we're just practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing, and it's not getting better, then you've got some major problems with kids respecting you, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're going to have to handle those things one by one.
And they may start doing it so they can just walk the halls and
Right.
not have to do their work.
That's such a good point, Jessica. If they'll outsmart you, and they can trick you into having them do that so they don't have to do their work. So.
And I also, we haven't talked about this, but if you're struggling, like let's just say, the middle of the day is really hard for me for whatever, they fall apart. Don't forget about the support that you have at your school. So maybe you need, because it is sometimes when you're teaching, it is hard to see all that's going on. Maybe you want somebody to just come in for a few minutes to observe and you ask them what they see, where the problems are, to help you kind of brainstorm what would be helpful to reteach, or if it is a whole class problem, or maybe it is only a few of the students that need to be dealt with. So
yeah, and if you're having issues with them just following your instructions, we always say on here, connection before correction, connection before direction. So we think about, am I doing everything that I can to connect with my kids, to find common ground with them, to bond with them in a way, so that when I ask them to do things, that they respect me and they listen to me, because your routines are not going to work if you're not connecting with the kids in a healthy way, like you should.
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't want to be there, they know it.
Yes.
So, well, we hope we've inspired you today to maybe think about in your classroom if there's some things you need to reteach. Hopefully everything is going great. So if you don't need to reteach anything, you might a little bit down the road, but hopefully you got some good tips today.
I hope so.
Yeah, so we'll see you next time.
Oh, yes.